Hi, I'm JD. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe, please hit like, and let's get on with this video. So what do I have here today? I have a very old vintage pocket watch. I think I described this before. It was given me by two ladies. The crystal on this watch is actually mine that I found for this particular movement, but let's look in this watch and see what condition it's in. So this is a Waltham. It's a size 0 pocket watch, a lady's pocket watch. It doesn't wind, but it does set the hands, which is kind of strange. And when you open the case back here, you can see it's a relatively low jeweled movement, but it's of high value to the owner. So there, the crystal just fell out. This just needs cleaning. It's a brand new crystal, needs some cleaning. I'll just put that aside. The movement on it, the balance looks good. Balance seems to be no broken staffs on this, I don't think. And everything else looks fairly clean. The case is nice. It's a gold-filled fortune case, so that's a very nice case. American Waltham watch company there, AWCCO, and it is been serviced many times. You can see the service marks on here. These are just marks that the repairer would have etched in years and years ago for servicing the watch. So it looks like it's gotten at least 4 services. So I'm not sure whether one of the last ones caused the problem, but yeah, 4 services here. It's kind of grindy when you get into the winding mechanism. So I'm not even sure if this watch has a broken mainspring or not. But the first thing I want to do is take off this hour hand, and the hour hand is fairly pathetic itself. So this is not an hour hand, sorry, it's a minute hand, but it's fairly pathetic. So that's not too good. So we're going to just remove this minute hand. All right, the first thing to do when you remove the hands, and I think there's leftover hands in here. So I think this is the minute hand. The hour hand I think was snapped off. So it looks like it would be right there. So that's of no use. I may have to source both hands because the minute hand looks fairly bent. I'm using small hand removers here only because this is a very small watch, so I don't think my large hand removers would work very well. So this is a decision normally if you got wide hand removers to just use the narrow ones. And as you can see, there's leftover stuff here. So this looks like, I'm not sure what this is, but this is the minute hand here, and I'm just going to put this up here on my mat aside. And this is what's left of the hour hand, which is interesting. So I'll keep this because it may help me with sizing the hand itself. There's no second hand here, but there looks like there's a pivot in there, which is good news for all of us. I don't have gloves on right now, but I am going to be stripping this watch down, so I'm not too concerned about that. And let's get the nice pad out. So before I remove the movement, I want to pull the stem out on this watch. See if I can just grab this and pull the crown and stem out. There we go. That's a nice snap. And I know that the gears are in there to actually set the time, so that's a good thing. So the stem is out, and that way when I remove the screws from the movement here, that those are movement screws here that I'm going to have be able to very easily remove the movement. So let me just take that out very carefully. This is a small watch. Of course, I keep getting these small ladies' watches. I'm not sure why, but I don't think anyone wants to work on them. So they go, hey, let's give him the JD. He loves working on ladies' watches. Wrong. I may have to get closer. I'm not sure here. It's tricky. I'm trying to keep this in camera view all the while turning the screw. I may have to get a bigger screwdriver, right tool for the right job. Let's get the big one in here. There we go. That's a bit better, and that is gripping the groove a little bit better. It's still cycling its way out. And I wait till I hear that little click, and that tells me that's at the end of the threads, and I can lift it straight up like that. And that's the 2 screws. I should be able to just dip this forward like that, and the whole movement will fall out for me, right? With any luck, let me use my plastic here. It's not wanting to fall out. Let me look at what I got here. I may have to just grip it from both ends and see what I can do here to get this loosened up. Nope, that's not coming out that way. I'm looking at the front here, and I think I got the problem solved. The problem is that there is a bezel, and so I was trying to remove this with the bezel. So I got to pop the bezel off. Now this is not a hinged bezel. It's being popped off right here. Usually you'll see watches with the opening for popping off the bezel right here, right? So this is crystal and bezel. There's no crystal on it, but it's usually right here, not over there. I don't think I've ever seen it over there. So the last watchmaker positioned it in the wrong place, but I should be able to still work my bezel removing device in there to take that off. There we go. So that should be actually on this side, right? Like on this side and not on the other side. So I'll just move that out of the way. That came out nicely, and now the movement should be able to just drop right out. And what I do is you take the movement, there's nice Bergeron gel pad, put it on the top, rotate everything around like that, like this, and then when you basically move this back, it just falls out. So, and that's why you take your crown back, so you get your stem out of the way. So that's the theory behind that. So put that out of the way. So now I've got this. That's done. Now I'd really like to get rid of that balance before I do anything else. I'm going to use my Binford 2000 balance holder that I designed and I built. And there's a little cup there for holding the screws. And there's two different sizes that I can use. And I think that the smaller size here will fit this nicely. So let's see if I can put that in there and it works. I just noticed that there's also a dust ring on this watch, so should be able to just work that out very simply. I'm just going to get in a little bit close here and see if I can just work that dust ring off. I'm trying to stay in camera the whole time. Shouldn't be telling you this because a proper production wouldn't be telling you anything, would it? So I just get my screwdriver in the groove here and just slowly go around the circle here and work it out. And there's little tabs on the movement that kind of help tell it where it needs to be. And the only tricky part here is that when you get to where the winding opening is for the winding mechanism, it's sometimes blocked in there, so it's a little bit harder to get past that. So I try to lift it from the other sides first, and then that way I don't have to challenge this side as much, even though I can just kind of work it out. Come on. There we go. And once that side's out, the rest of it just comes out real easy. So there we go. So that's the dust cover for this watch, which is nice. It's nice that it does have a dust cover. Even though it's not a high-end movement, I'm surprised it does have a dust cover. So now I've got only this to take out, and what I'll do is I'll put this in my Myers number 58 movement holder. This is the Myers number 58 movement holder. It is called Your Third Hand. Will hold all watches regardless of size, shape, or form. The Myers number 58 movement holder. So I've got it mounted up in the Myers number 58 movement holder, and I had to get smaller jaws in here because of the size of this watch, and I use my Bergeron 7010 stick here just to hold this down while I unscrew it from the balance cock from the movement. And this just ensures that it doesn't bounce up and down while I'm trying to make sure it's safe, and I remove it and I don't break any pivots that are on the top of this thing. So that helps with that. Grab that screw, and I'm just going to put that aside for now. So that's now loose. I might be able to just grab this and take it out. I don't think there's any power left on the watch. I probably should check that just before I do this to see if there's any power remaining on the watch at all. So again, my problem is nothing I do is going to make that crown wheel turn, this wheel here, so there must be something wrong, but I can see some movement on the balance here, which means there's likely some power remaining on the watch. I'm going to remove the balance anyway, because the pallet fork will ensure that the watch just doesn't wind out on me. So just lift that up carefully, and I just want to make sure I've got a full grip on this thing, and move the holder out of the way while I try to get the balance into position. So that's not working too well. So when you give up, just put it back like that, and I just want to make sure that doesn't fall down. Get another set of tweezers, grab another set of tweezers very carefully, and then get these ones underneath here again for safety reasons. And then I'm going to use the other set of tweezers to grab the balance and help it over the jewel. There we go. And that way I'm not stretching the hairspring at all, right? So I put that on the movement holder, and that might not be completely focused, but just bear with me as I just put this down for a second. And I've got a little pad in the movement holder right here, and this was just an adaptation for another watch I was working on, so I can remove that, get that out of the way, and that way the movement sits very nicely on this little pad on both sides. So you can see how that works, and I'll just focus to show it to you. And there it is there, and it is sitting on this nice little pad here, which is kind of cool. And I made this whole thing in this faux leather pad I glued on a long time ago, and this just allows me to rest a balance and onto this pad and just reducing any extra stress that there would be on that hairspring. And that's the Bergeron 7010 stick that I use. Alright, the other thing I'm going to try to do to relieve power from this watch is go from the screw side, and actually I could probably take this wheel off, right, and because the ratchet wheel will hold this wheel in place, and this is simply used for winding and setting. So I think I might be able to take this wheel off. And again, I don't know whether it's righty, loosey, tighty, whatever. So okay, this comes off like that. So I can just remove this wheel completely. That way it won't hold back the ratchet wheel. So this is the crown wheel for the watch, and this should just lift up. And if I can't lift it up, just grab a piece of Rodico, and Rodico, man's best friend and woman's best friend as well. Just press down on the part like that and pull it straight up. And that's as opposed to working too hard to. Yeah, and as I can see this mechanism here, this is the crown wheel, and these are the teeth on the crown wheel, and they look fine, right? And this wheel here is the one that drives it, and I don't know whether that wheel is engaging properly. That's the issue here, to actually wind the watch. So that might be my problem. I have to see how that's engaging later on, because I'm trying to diagnose the problem on this watch as well. So now that I've got that out, I can I'm going to very carefully do this. So I want to take a piece of pegwood, and what I want to do is put a little bit of stress on that screw. So let me just get set up to do that. Alright, so I hope you can see this, but I'm going to get the right size screwdriver here and put that in there. And you can wind the watch from the ratchet screw here, but I got to make sure I've got good contact with this. And I'm going to turn this screw, try to turn the wheel here, and then disengage the ratchet and see if I get any action. And I did, and it kind of slipped a bit. I don't think there's a lot of power on this mainspring, but there seems to be a little bit. I'll just try to back that off a bit, and there we go. That's all the power there was on the mainspring. So there wasn't a lot of power on the mainspring. And now I can just for stickiness, I use the Rodico here to hold the ratchet wheel down while I try to turn that screw. Is that going to work? I may need to use my finger in this case because the screw is going to be stubborn as hell, I can tell. There we go. The tricky part is the groove in the top of the screw is very shallow, and I think maybe from all the years that this has been used for this particular watch. So that is out, and now I should be able to lift the ratchet wheel right out like that, and then we're ready for the next step. Now, only because I'm curious as heck, I'm going to remove the upper plate here on the watch first. I've got to get the right screwdriver again to do that, and it's probably a red, right? So I size the screwdriver depending on the type screws I'm trying to remove, and the red screwdriver looks perfect. So do that. You can see the screws coming out nicely, and my practice is usually to loosen a screw and then remove it. So I don't do all 3 screws and then remove all 3. This is a practice I've had for years, to do 1 screw at a time and remove it like that, and then very carefully remove that screw. Everything is about being very deliberate when you're working on watches, and very careful. All right, I can see from looking inside here that this watch is one of my favorite springs. Let me lift this up here, and that's this thing here. So this whole mechanism here is usually a big pain. When I say favorite, I didn't mean favorite, I meant favorite. So let me see if I've got the problem here nabbed in there. That should move backward like that and engage this wheel to turn it. So I can remove, I haven't removed the cannon pinion yet on this watch, so I've made a mistake here. I should have actually removed the cannon pinion. And I don't want to remove the cannon pinion unless it's safe. So I've elected to put the plates back so that I can actually turn it over and remove the cannon pinion. I don't want to remove it unless the movement is actually safe in place. So I'm just going to screw these back in, and then I'll cut over to the next step after. So we'll just get this watch back in place here. And that's 3 screws I need to put in. And I'm not really tightening these at all because I'm just doing it to make sure I've got support for the center wheel to remove the cannon pinion, because that's important. So that was a bit of a boo-boo by me, but it's only a 2-minute delay boo-boo. So I'm not too concerned over this one. And then, as you can see from most of my videos, some of the challenges of making the videos, I made sure the pivots were sticking through, by the way, is to actually make sure that I am doing the right job and not just too much talking. So in order to remove the cannon pinion, I got to remove the hour wheel, and I'm going to remove other things. So I had to too soon a stripping. So let's just remove the face, and let's see what is holding that face in place. So there's some dial screws here that I need to get at. I'll just lower this a bit and just loosen these dial screws. I need a better screwdriver for loosening dial screws. That was white, and I think I could use yellow probably, or even black maybe. Depends how thick the dial screws are. No, this is probably pretty good here. And you want to have a firm grip on things and then loosen it up. And if I lose a dial screw, I'll just put it back later, because I want to put those back in and tighten them for cleaning. I think I was so darn curious about okay, this dial screw is causing issues here. It doesn't seem to want to move at all. That's not good. I'm going to go to the next dial screw here. There's none there. So it's missing a dial screw here. This is the one I took one out already, and it's probably fallen on my mat. And this is the one that's giving me issues. Let me try this one again. Because if it's there's too many issues, I may want to put some holy Jesus, that thing is in solid. I might want to put some penetrating oil in there to get that out. Let me see how loose the dial is in its condition. Yeah, the dial doesn't look like it's falling out easily, so that's not good. So I'm just gonna see if I can work on that again and get that thing removed. And the other dial screws right here, and they're fairly small. The only good thing about these dial screws is they don't seem like they have got heads on them. They seem like they're just one continuous screw, so I might not have the problem of stripping the head on that. So I'll come back and see how successful I am at removing that dial screw. Alright, having worked on this dial screw and tried to loosen it up, my conclusion is that it's stripped. Somebody might have put in a different kind of dial screw in here, and the darn thing is stripped, but I still might be able to get the movement out of the or the face out of the movement here if I work very carefully here and try to edge it out with a needle. Let me see if it's push outable from the back end here with the leg here. And then if I can get this thing out, I might be able to work on that dial screw at some point in time. This is all tricky stuff. This is why the watch repair, see, it turns. The screw is turning, but oh my God, this thing is in there right some good, as they say. So this might have to be punched out of its position. The other dial screws are out, and I don't want to have to solder on a new dial. So one dial screw is missing. This one is the shits. I get this thing wedged a bit, so I might be able to get something underneath it here. I was trying to use a needle here to work on this, to try to get the needle between the faceplate and the movement, because there's an edge to the movement here, right? So there we go. There we go. So I've got that out now. And now I'm going to be very careful and use my fingernails maybe to keep the distance here so it doesn't pop back in as I try to remove this side here. Because the screws are out on the other side, so there shouldn't be that big of a problem to take this dial out. Alright, there we go. So the dial is out now, and the dial feet look fine here on this watch, and they're curved. If you look at those dial feet on the watch here, you can see the one next to my thumb, how it's indented, right? So the screw just has to go in and be nicely in place. So, and there's the dial, and it's in very good condition, but getting that dial out was a challenge. And while I'm here, I might as well just pull out take off the hour wheel here nice and carefully, and I might be able to just lift up that minute wheel as well. There we go, and now I've got the cannon pinion sitting there, and it's asking really nicely to be removed. So I have a vintage tool here used for removing the cannon pinion, and it's got jaws on the end here that grabs that cannon pinion, so I just have to make sure that it's safe to remove. So I put that right over the top, and I make sure that I have room on the edges for this thing to find a flat surface, so that when I pull up, it's pulling up the cannon pinion alone. And there we go, that's the cannon pinion, and it's successfully removed. And I'll just put this over here for further work and cleaning. Now I can put this back in the Myers movement holder. Alright, before I continue doing a little bit of a diagnosis on this watch, I was able to repair the setting or the winding mechanism. So you can see that it winds right now. If I do this, I can turn this forever. It just sort of accidentally turns because the gear's there. But when I press down like this is when the clutch wheel, it goes back. So if you look right there, it's like this. The second I go like this with the clutch wheel, it goes back and it goes into a winding position. So then it does wind. There may be a problem with the depthing of the crown on this watch, so I may have to check the depthing, but this does work, which is really positive. So I'm very happy about that, I'm not missing a part. There is not grinding of this, so that's good. So I should be able to bring this back to life, which is what I really want to do on this watch, right? Because this will wind the ratchet wheel here. So this is the crown wheel, and it looks pretty good. So I have no issue there. So I just temporarily put this back in place here so I could wind this up and check it out. Let me just take this out here for now. And this unscrews the normal way, which is nice. But again, I wish the companies would have marked them back then to tell me which ones are reverse and which ones aren't reverse, because you can't really always tell. So just pick this up. It should just come out without a problem, like that. There we go. Come on out. Just like I did last time, just pick it up with Rodico and start farting. Stop farting around, right? There's part of it, and then the other part is easy to take out. So, and let me see if I can just lift this up. There we go. And now that I've got that figured out, which is a nice thing, I'm going to very carefully, now I can remove the plates. Oh yeah. Oh joy, it's plate removal time. So just like I did before, and I think I used the red screwdriver before to loosen up the screws here and take them out. So, and when I put them back, I didn't tighten them up that much. So that's screw number 1. And I'm feeling pretty happy about this, because I think this watch can be recovered, which is nice. It's going to be, there could be some hand sourcing issues. I have to make sure that the mainspring is hooked and working. And let me just get this out here like this. And I don't think it's been used a lot. So the cleaning, I'm going to go through a cleaning with it anyway, but I don't think the cleaning is that critical on this, so I can just start removing some of these parts and putting them on the side. You can take the mainspring out usually just because there's not much depth in it, and pull it sideways like that out of the barrel. And I could probably take this wheel out too, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to remove these 2 screws right here. And the screws are not soldered in like some of the watches I've worked on recently, which is a nice thing. And I do tend to group the screws up with the plates. It's just a habit I've had for a long time. Just use my brass tweezers here to hold this plate down for a second. I could use my Bergeron stick. And this is removing everything under control, right? You see how that is stuck on the plate? There we go. Lucky these things are so light, if they drop, nothing usually gets damaged. I've actually never had anything damaged by it dropping on the mat. Plus the mat's very soft. So I'm just taking out the escapement wheel now. And then I will remove, I got to get in close and dirty here for the pallet fork. So, and I want to hold that down. I can get my stick back out again because I like this stick. It's good. I will likely not finish servicing the watch today because I've got other things I need to get done. Done, I tell you. So, but I will run it through cleaning, I think. but maybe not reassembly, because then I can let it dry for a long time, which I like to do, by the way. Give it a super decent drying cycle. And it's better to move the movement than it is to move your body. And when you're removing the pallet fork, this one here does not have a jeweled bridge for the pallet fork. Remember, it's called a bridge if it's got 2 screws on either side and bridging it. It's called cock, like the balance cock, if it's got 1 screw coming from that side. Slip that straight up like this, and I think the pallet fork is right there. Grab that. It's in very good condition. No problems. So that is stripped. I just have to decide whether I want to remove all this stuff because I do think it works, and I'm not lazy, I just really worry about some of these springs getting broken and everything, and other watch makers I've talked to have said, no, I don't bother unscrewing this stuff here. I just make sure it's in there well, like it's in there nice and tight, which this seems to be okay now, before I put it in the cleaning machine. There, that's snug enough. And yeah, let me see the operation of this again to make sure it's working perfectly. See, that's not going back the way it was before. Oh, there we go. There's some friction there somewhere, I think. See, that's smooth there. But initially it wasn't going back. So that'll be cleaned and oiled, and it will be good after. So this is the spring I'm concerned with right there, because if you lose that spring, you almost have to buy another movement to make it work. That's the situation you're in. So that's enough for now. I've got it all spread out on my mat over yonder, and we're just going to clean this watch, and I need to actually strip down the mainspring barrel and have a peek in there and see what that looks like as well. So anyway, I'm JD. Thanks for watching my channel, and please subscribe and please hit like. This has been a good adventure, because now I know this thing can be serviced well and come back to work. I do need to do some hands hunting for it though, so we'll have to do that in the future when I do the reassembly.